But there is no greater challenge today than the full-scale dismantling of democracy and the heartbreaking humanitarian disaster in Venezuela. While the United States welcomes the release of the unjustly imprisoned Holt family, our policy towards Venezuela remains unchanged. The United States stands steadfast in support of the Venezuelan people and their efforts to return to democracy. The Maduro regime's efforts to move towards unconstitutional government and its human rights abuses are now well known by all. All these actions have, among other ill consequences, resulted in an unconstitutional alteration of Venezuela's constitutional order. Given these circumstances, we are all challenged to act under the Inter-American Democratic Charter, which this body has already begun to do. On more than one occasion, Venezuela has squandered opportunities to have the kind of dialogue that the Charter calls for. We seek only what all the nations of the OAS want for our people: a return to the constitutional order, free and fair elections with international observation, and the release of political prisoners. The regime's refusal to take meaningful action on these issues has demonstrated unmistakable bad faith and exhausted options for dialogue under current conditions. Just 2 weeks ago, the Venezuelan government staged sham elections that offered no real choice to the Venezuelan people and its voters. Many of them responded sensibly by simply staying home. For all of these reasons, Vice President Pence challenged member states last month to do what the Democratic Charter asks of us when faced with an unconstitutional interruption in democratic order of a member state: suspend Venezuela from this body. That suspension is not a goal unto itself, but it would show that OAS backs up its words with action, and it would send a powerful signal to the Maduro regime. Only real elections will allow your government to be included in the family of nations. In addition to suspension, I call on fellow member states to apply additional pressure on the Maduro regime, including sanctions and further diplomatic isolation, until such time as it undertakes the actions necessary to return genuine democracy and provide people desperately needed access to international humanitarian aid. We call on all OAS nations to do this today regarding Venezuela, and in the future, wherever necessary, for good of the region and the world. Thank you.